Every morning, you wake up with two choices: repeat the same story from yesterday or write a new one. The words you speak to yourself in those first few moments will decide which path you take. They shape your confidence, your focus, and your courage to face the day. This isn't about empty positive thinking, it's about intentional, powerful truths that rewire your mindset before the world has a chance to. Today, I'm going to share 4 simple, yet life-changing things you can tell yourself each morning, so you start your day with strength, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. When you open your eyes in the morning, the first thing you feel isn't always motivation. Sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's the weight of what you didn't get done yesterday, sometimes it's the memory of a conversation you wish had gone differently. That's human, but the problem is, if you let those first thoughts dictate your direction, the rest of the day ends up feeling like a reaction instead of a choice. That's why telling yourself, "Today is a fresh start," isn't just a nice idea, it's a daily reset. It's you taking control before the world gets a chance to. Think about it. Yesterday might have been messy. You might have said something you regret, procrastinated on something important, or just didn't show up as your best self. But here's the truth: yesterday ended the moment you went to sleep. It can't be changed. Carrying the emotional weight of it into a brand new day is like wearing yesterday's dirty clothes, uncomfortable, distracting, and unnecessary. When you decide the moment you wake up that today is not a continuation of yesterday's failures, you free yourself from the baggage that slows you down. And I get it, that's easier said than done. The mind loves to replay mistakes. It loves to remind you of unfinished business, of how far you still have to go. But that's exactly why this morning reset matters. You are literally telling your brain, we're not living in the past anymore. We're starting here now, and when you start here now, you give yourself permission to approach challenges with fresh energy, instead of dragging yesterday's frustration into today's opportunities. Here's the thing: every day is going to throw something unexpected at you. A phone call that changes your schedule, an email that wasn't on your radar, a conversation that tests your patience. If you start your day already weighed down by yesterday's mess, your ability to handle those surprises shrinks. You're already running on low, but if you wake up and remind yourself that today is a fresh start, you step into those moments with more mental space, more clarity, and more strength to deal with them the right way. It's not just about forgetting the bad stuff either, it's also about not getting stuck in yesterday's good stuff. Some people live off the high of a win they had weeks ago. They stop moving forward because they're busy replaying the victory instead of creating a new one. Every day you wake up, the scoreboard resets. Yesterday's success doesn't guarantee today's, and yesterday's loss doesn't doom today. Both are in the past, and the only thing that matters is how you choose to show up right now. When you tell yourself this is a fresh start, you also open the door to grace for yourself, and sometimes grace for others. Because maybe yesterday wasn't just tough on you, maybe someone else in your life dropped the ball, said something careless, or hurt you in some way. If you carry that bitterness forward, it starts to color everything you see. But when you decide, today's different, today's a clean slate, you give yourself the gift of moving forward without that poison. It doesn't mean you ignore what happened. It means you choose not to let it have power over you anymore. This kind of mindset shift is powerful because it reminds you that identity is not built on a single day. You are not the sum of your worst moments. You are not frozen in place because of a decision you made when you were tired, stressed, or afraid. And you're also not forever defined by the peak moments where you felt unstoppable. Your identity is built over time, through consistent choices, and those choices start fresh every morning. Now you might be wondering how to actually make this stick, because it's one thing to say, today is a fresh start, and another thing to believe it. That's where action comes in. If you wake up and repeat this phrase, but then you scroll social media for an hour, skip breakfast, and dive straight into chaos, your brain won't buy it. But if you start your day with even one small intentional action, making your bed, drinking water, taking a few deep breaths, reading something uplifting, you prove to yourself that today really is different. You anchor the words in reality, and I'll tell you something else, you won't always feel like today is a fresh start. Some mornings it will feel like you're just trying to survive, but that's the beauty of this, the feeling comes after the choice, not before it. You don't wait to feel ready before you claim a new start, you claim it, and the readiness follows. You take the step first, and the belief catches up. Life will give you plenty of reasons to believe you're stuck. But the truth is, every morning you get to decide whether you're starting over or staying where you were. That decision will shape how you think, how you speak, how you work, and how you connect with people. So when you open your eyes tomorrow morning, don't let your first thought be about yesterday's pain, yesterday's mistakes, or even yesterday's wins. Let it be this: today is a fresh start, because it is. When you wake up and tell yourself, I am in control of my mind, my mood, and my reactions, you're not just saying words, you're making a declaration about how you're going to live that day. Most people spend their mornings bracing for what the world is going to throw at them. They let the day control them instead of taking the driver's seat. And when you live that way, it only takes one wrong comment, one delay, one piece of bad news to send everything spiraling. But when you start the day reminding yourself that you have control over how you think and how you respond, you take back power before anything has a chance to take it from you. We can't control people, we can't control traffic, we can't control what shows up in our inbox, but every single time something happens, we control what happens inside of us. And here's the thing, that's where the real battles are won or lost, because life isn't just about what happens to you, it's about the meaning you assign to it, the energy you give to it, and the actions you take after it. That's why this statement matters so much. It's not about pretending bad things won't happen. It's about deciding in advance that nothing and no one gets to dictate your state of mind unless you allow it. Imagine two people stuck in the same traffic jam. One is honking, cursing, gripping the steering wheel so tight their knuckles are white. The other has the windows down, music playing, maybe making a mental plan for how to adjust their schedule once they arrive. Same situation, same delay, completely different experience. The difference isn't luck, it's choice. One person surrendered control of their mood to the traffic. The other kept it for themselves. That's what we're talking about here, the ability to guard your peace like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. And the truth is, the world is full of things trying to take it from you. That's why this can't be something you figure out halfway through the day. You have to set the tone before anything happens. You have to start with the decision, and no matter what comes at me today, I control my response. If you wait until you're already in the middle of a heated moment to make that choice, your emotions will make it for you. And emotions in the heat of the moment, they almost always go for the short-term reaction instead of the long-term win. Here's where it gets even more important. Your reactions don't just affect you. They affect every conversation you have, every relationship you build, every opportunity you get. When you respond with composure, you earn trust. When you respond with anger or defensiveness, you break it. One careless reaction can undo years of credibility. But one calm, thoughtful reaction can open doors you didn't even know were there. That's the power you hold when you control your mind, your mood, and your reactions. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. We're wired to react quickly, especially when we feel attacked, disrespected, or ignored. But that's why this needs to be a morning ritual, because you're not just fighting situations, you're fighting your own instincts. You're reminding yourself every morning that you're in charge of you, that other people's words, mistakes, or moods are not invitations for you to hand over your control. And if you do hand it over, they're not the ones who lose, you are. Think about the last time you overreacted. Maybe you said something you didn't mean. Maybe you sent a text or an email too quickly. Maybe you just let the frustration ruin the rest of your day. That's what happens when you forget you're in control. You let the moment take more from you than it deserves. But when you're grounded in this truth, you can pause, you can breathe, you can choose the words and the actions that reflect the person you actually want to be, not the one your emotions are pushing you to be. And there's something else here. When you take control of your mind and your mood, you stop living in constant reaction mode. You stop waiting for the next thing to happen so you can figure out how to deal with it. Instead, you start creating the kind of day you want. You start influencing the environment around you instead of letting it influence you. That's how leaders operate. That's how strong, centered people move through life, not by avoiding problems, but by facing them without losing themselves in the process. One of the best things you can do is practice this in small moments before the big ones come. If you can keep your cool when the coffee spills, when the line is longer than you thought, or when someone cuts you off in traffic, you're building the muscle you'll need when life throws something heavier your way. Control is a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger the more you use it. So tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you look at your to-do list, before you think about all the things that could go wrong, make this decision. Say it out loud if you have to. I am in control of my mind, my mood, and my reactions. Let it sink in. Picture yourself holding the remote control to your own state of mind and refusing to hand it to anyone else. Because the truth is, you can't stop the storms from coming, but you can decide how you're going to stand in the middle of them. When you wake up and tell yourself, I have everything I need to succeed today, you're not claiming that life is perfect, that you have all the answers, or that every resource you'll ever need is sitting in front of you. What you're saying is that for today, for the challenges that will cross your path, you already have enough inside you to meet them head on. You're reminding yourself that you're not starting from zero. You've been preparing for this moment with every skill you've learned, every setback you've recovered from, and every piece of wisdom you've gathered along the way. The truth is, most of us start our mornings focused on what we lack. We think about the money we don't have yet, the connections we haven't made, the experience we're still missing. And when you begin your day from a place of lack, you spend the rest of it chasing something that you believe will finally make you ready. The problem is that finish line keeps moving. No matter what you gain, your mind will find something else you don't have yet. That's why starting your day with the belief that you already have enough for today is so powerful. It shifts you from a mindset of scarcity to one of resourcefulness. Because here's the reality, most obstacles aren't about resources, they're about resourcefulness. It's not about having everything in your hands. It's about using what's in your hands well. I've seen people with half the resources and twice the determination outpace those who have every advantage but don't take action. Your success today will come less from what you own or know, and more from your willingness to work with what you've got. Think about it. How many times in your life have you faced something that you thought you weren't ready for, but you figured it out? A new job where you had to learn on the fly, a tough conversation you didn't want to have, but you navigated it anyway. A personal challenge that seemed overwhelming at first, but looking back, you handled it better than you thought you could. Those moments didn't happen because you magically got everything you needed right before the challenge showed up. They happened because you already had more in you than you gave yourself credit for. Starting the day with this statement is a reminder to stop underestimating yourself. You have problem-solving skills, you have creativity. You have resilience, you have the ability to learn quickly, you have the capacity to adapt, and you have the life experience that no one else on this planet has in exactly the same way you do. That combination is unique, and it's powerful if you decide to use it. The danger of believing you don't have enough yet is that it leads to hesitation. You start waiting for the perfect time to act. You wait to feel more confident, more experienced, more equipped. But the truth is, those feelings usually come after you start, not before. The act of stepping forward, even when you feel like you don't have everything, is what builds the very confidence and skills you think you're missing. When you tell yourself you already have everything you need, you give yourself permission to move. You take away the excuse of waiting for perfect circumstances. And you start looking at challenges differently. Instead of thinking, I can't do this because I don't have what I need, you start thinking, how can I make what I do have work for me? That's the kind of thinking that turns ordinary days into breakthrough days. And here's something else. When you approach life this way, people notice. They see your confidence. They see that you're not frozen by fear or waiting for permission. That energy draws opportunities to you because people want to work with those who believe they can figure things out. It's not arrogance, it's quiet assurance. It's the belief that you can face whatever's ahead, not because you have it all, but because you can make the most of what you do have. This doesn't mean you never prepare or that you shouldn't grow your skills or seek new resources. Of course you should. But preparation and growth are most effective when you're already moving forward, not when you're sitting still waiting to feel ready. And that's what this morning's statement protects you from, the trap of inaction disguised as preparation. Some of you might be thinking, but what if I really don't have what I need? And I'd say, most of the time, that's not the full truth. You may not have everything to finish the journey, but you almost always have enough to start it, and starting is where momentum comes from. The rest of the extra resources, the connections, the lessons will meet you along the way, but you won't find them if you don't take that first step believing you can make it with what you've got. So tomorrow morning, before your feet hit the floor, remind yourself of this truth. Don't start your day searching for what's missing, start it knowing you already hold more than you think. Because once you believe that, you stop living like you're at a disadvantage, and you start living like the advantage was in you all along. When you wake up and tell yourself, I will focus on progress, not perfection, you take an enormous amount of pressure off your shoulders. Because perfection is heavy, it's demanding, it whispers that nothing you do is enough, no matter how hard you try. And if you're not careful, it will paralyze you. That's the trap perfection sets. It convinces you that if you can't do something flawlessly, you shouldn't do it at all. And as a result, you never move forward. You stay stuck, staring at the ideal version of something in your head instead of building the real version with your hands. Progress is different. Progress is lighter. Progress says, it doesn't have to be perfect to be worth doing. It understands that small steps compound over time. It values showing up, even if your steps are messy, even if your pace is slower than you'd like. Progress knows that the greatest transformations in life don't happen all at once, they happen quietly, one decision at a time, stacked on top of each other until they become something powerful. The problem with chasing perfection is that it's not even real. There will always be someone who can find a flaw in your work, someone who would have done it differently, someone who says you could have done better. And because perfection keeps moving the target, you end up exhausted, constantly chasing something you'll never actually catch. Progress, on the other hand, is measurable, it's tangible. You can look back and see how far you've come, and that fuels you to keep going. I've seen so many people with great ideas, big dreams, and deep talent talk themselves out of taking the first step because they feel like they're not ready. They say they're waiting for the right time, or waiting until it's perfect. But what they're really doing is protecting themselves from the risk of failing. Because progress means you're out there in the open, making attempts that might not work, and that's scary, but the reality is, the sooner you let go of the need to be perfect, the sooner you open yourself up to the growth that only happens when you try, adjust, and try again. And here's the irony, the people we often admire for being great at something didn't get there because they started perfectly. They got there because they started, period. They learned, they adapted, and they kept moving forward when most people would have quit. They were willing to be imperfect long enough to get better. That's what progress does. It allows you to improve over time instead of trying to arrive fully formed. This is why telling yourself every morning to focus on progress is so freeing. You give yourself permission to make mistakes without letting them define you. You recognize that effort counts, that consistency matters more than flawless execution. You understand that even small wins are worth celebrating because they mean you're moving in the right direction. Think about a brick wall. If you try to build the whole thing in one day, perfectly aligned and without a single crack, you're going to burn out before you get halfway. But if you lay one brick at a time, carefully and consistently, you will eventually have that wall. And here's the best part. When you focus on placing each brick well, without obsessing over the entire wall at once, the process becomes less overwhelming. Progress breaks big goals into pieces you can actually handle. And let's be honest, some days you'll feel like you're making huge strides, and other days it'll feel like you barely moved. That's normal. Progress isn't always a straight line. Some days are for sprinting forward, others are for steady steps or even standing still to catch your breath. What matters is that you keep showing up. Because every time you do, you're building something stronger, your habits, your resilience, your belief in yourself. When you aim for progress, you also start to notice the improvements that perfection would overlook. Perfection only sees what's missing. Progress sees what's growing, and that shift in perspective changes everything. You stop criticizing yourself for not being there yet and start appreciating the fact that you're further than you were yesterday. You stop waiting for the end result to feel proud and start finding pride in the effort itself. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about setting yourself free from the unrealistic ones that keep you stuck. You can still have high goals, you can still want excellence, but you get there by building, not by magically arriving. And the truth is, the journey towards something often changes you more than actually reaching it. If you only measure success by whether or not you've reached perfection, you miss out on the deeper growth that happens along the way. So tomorrow morning, remind yourself that progress is the real win. Let that be your focus when you make decisions, when you tackle your to-do list, when you face the setbacks that inevitably come. Ask yourself, am I moving forward, even just a little? Because if the answer is yes, you're doing the work. You're building the life you want, one step, one choice, one day at a time. When you wake up in the morning, before your mind starts racing with everything you have to do, before you reach for your phone, before the demands of the day pull you in 100 directions, stop for a moment and feed gratitude before you feed your goals. This simple choice has the power to shift your entire day, because goals are important. They give you direction, they keep you moving forward, but gratitude gives you perspective. It reminds you of what you already have while you're working for what you want. Without that balance, it's easy to spend every day chasing without ever feeling like you've arrived. The moment your feet hit the floor, your brain wants to go into planning mode. It wants to think about deadlines, tasks, and challenges. That's natural, but when you start the day from that place alone, you train your mind to believe that life is always about what's next. You rob yourself of the joy of what's now. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It forces you to pause and see the blessings you might otherwise rush past, the people in your life, the health you have, the opportunities in front of you, even the challenges that have shaped you. Some people think gratitude is just a feel-good exercise, something nice to do when life is easy, but the truth is, gratitude is often most powerful when life isn't going the way you want. It's easy to be thankful when everything's working. It's harder when you're in a storm, but that's exactly when you need it most, not to deny the reality of your situation, but to remind yourself that even in difficulty, there's something worth holding on to. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, and when you see what's present, you find strength you didn't know you had. Feeding gratitude before your goals doesn't mean you stop being ambitious. It means your ambition is fueled by contentment instead of desperation. There's a big difference between striving because you're excited to grow and striving because you feel like you're not enough yet. Gratitude makes sure you're operating from the first place. It roots you in the truth that your value doesn't depend on the next achievement, and that makes you more resilient when things don't go as planned. Here's something I've noticed: when people skip gratitude and go straight to their goals, they can achieve a lot but still feel empty. They get the promotion, they buy the house, they reach the milestone, and then almost immediately they're asking, what's next? The satisfaction is temporary because it was never grounded in appreciation. Gratitude is what allows you to enjoy what you've earned while you keep building. Without it, success can start to feel like a moving target you can never quite hit. Practicing this doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a perfect morning routine or a long journal entry, although those can help. Sometimes it's as simple as thinking of 3 things you're thankful for before you get out of bed. They don't have to be big. It could be the roof over your head, the sound of your child laughing, the fact that you woke up this morning with another chance to try again. The key is to actually feel it, to let yourself sit in the reality of how much those things matter. And here's the beautiful part: gratitude has a multiplying effect. The more you practice it, the more you see to be grateful for. Your eyes start catching the small details you used to overlook: the way the sunlight hits the wall, the way a friend remembered something you said, the way your body carried you through a busy day without quitting on you. When you see life through that lens, even your goals feel different. They stop being the thing that will finally make you happy, and instead become another expression of a life you're already thankful for. This shift also changes the way you handle setbacks. If your happiness is tied only to your goals, a bad day can wreck you. But if you've already fed gratitude first, you can face challenges without losing your sense of worth. You can fail at something and still know you have things in your life that matter deeply. That's how gratitude protects you. It keeps your foundation strong, no matter how the day goes. There's a lot in life you can't control, but you can control what you choose to focus on when you wake up. If you make your first thought about what you don't have yet, you'll spend the day feeling behind. But if your first thought is about what you've already been given, you start the day feeling ahead. And when you feel ahead, you approach your goals with energy instead of exhaustion. So tomorrow, before the rush, before the emails, before the noise of the day begins, stop and feed gratitude first. Let that be the fuel for everything you do next, because when you build your day on thankfulness, even your pursuit of what's next becomes more joyful, more meaningful, and more alive. The way you talk to yourself in the morning sets the tone for how you handle everything after. If the first voice you hear in your head is critical, tearing you down before the day has even started, you're beginning with a weight you don't have to carry. You might think you're just being realistic, or holding yourself to a high standard, but there's a difference between holding yourself accountable and beating yourself up. One builds you, the other breaks you, and too often, we break ourselves before the world even has the chance. When you speak to yourself like your worst critic, you turn every flaw into a verdict. You start believing that a mistake means you're a failure, that a bad moment defines your worth, that you're never doing enough. That mindset will follow you into every conversation, every meeting, every challenge, and it will quietly sabotage your confidence before you even take the first step. And here's the thing, most of us would never talk to someone we love the way we talk to ourselves. We'd never look at a friend who's struggling and say, "You're worthless, you'll never get it right, you're wasting your time." Yet we say those things to ourselves without hesitation. That's why speaking to yourself like your best friend instead of your worst critic is so powerful. Because your best friend will tell you the truth, but they'll do it with compassion. They'll point out where you can do better, but they'll also remind you of your strengths. They'll encourage you to keep going when you want to quit. They'll see the bigger picture when you're stuck in the moment. That's what you need from yourself every morning, not blind flattery, not sugarcoating, but a voice that pushes you forward instead of dragging you down. When you make this shift, it doesn't mean you stop striving for more, it means you stop using shame as fuel. Shame is heavy, it might get you to move for a while, but it will burn you out. Encouragement is lighter. It's sustainable, it gives you the energy to keep going because you feel supported, even if that support is coming from inside your own head. This matters most on the hard days. It's easy to be kind to yourself when everything's going well. It's harder when you've made a mistake, when you've fallen short, when you're feeling behind. But that's exactly when you need that kindness the most, because how you treat yourself in those moments will decide how quickly you recover. If you tear yourself apart, you'll waste precious energy on guilt and self-doubt. If you remind yourself that failure is part of growth, you'll get back up faster. Speaking to yourself like your best friend also changes the way you take risks. When you know that no matter what happens, you won't destroy yourself with criticism, you become braver. You're more willing to try new things, to step into unfamiliar territory, to push your limits, because you're not afraid of your own reaction if it doesn't work out. You trust that you'll handle it with perspective, and that safety net gives you freedom. And here's the truth. The world will give you enough criticism. There will be people who doubt you, who misunderstand you, who judge you unfairly. You don't need to add your own voice to that chorus. You need to be the one voice in your life that is always in your corner, even when you're correcting yourself. That doesn't mean you ignore your weaknesses. It means you approach them in a way that makes you stronger instead of smaller. One way to start practicing this is to notice your self-talk in the first 10 minutes after you wake up. What are you saying to yourself? Are you replaying yesterday's mistakes? Are you telling yourself you're already behind? Or are you giving yourself a moment to breathe, to acknowledge what you've done well, to set an intention for the day ahead? If your natural instinct is to start with criticism, pause and ask, if my best friend were in my position right now, what would I say to them? Then say that to yourself. The more you practice this, the more it becomes your default. And when that happens, you'll notice a shift not just in how you feel, but in how you perform. Confidence grows when you know you have your own back. Resilience grows when you're not afraid of your own judgment. Focus grows when your mind is clear of unnecessary self-punishment. You'll still have challenges, but you'll face them with a stronger foundation. So tomorrow morning, and every morning after that, choose to be the voice that builds you up instead of the one that tears you down. Speak to yourself with the same respect, patience, and belief you'd give to someone you love, because when you start the day as your own best friend, you give yourself the strength to handle whatever comes next. So here's my challenge for you. Don't just listen to this and walk away inspired for a moment. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, speak these truths out loud. Feel them, own them, let them guide every choice you make, and if you stumble, if you forget, start again the next morning. Do it until it becomes who you are, because the life you want isn't built in a day. It's built every morning you decide to rise with intention. Your future is waiting. Meet it with purpose, meet it with courage, and meet it starting tomorrow at sunrise.